Hi class, my name is Pia Hewlett and I'm going to be covering Chapter 2, The Biological Perspective. This chapter talks about the brain's role in our behavior. These are the three concepts I'm going to be covering: the four lobes of the brain, the left hemisphere versus right hemisphere, and the association areas. We'll start off with the first concept, the four lobes that the brain is broken up into: the frontal, temporal, occipital, and parietal. The frontal lobe is involved in executive functions. It has a lot of higher mental functions like judgment in evaluating a situation, decision making, planning ahead, and emotional expression. It regulates our personality, character, goal-directed behavior, and problem solving. The temporal lobe is important for sensory information. Our hearing is processed in this lobe through the primary auditory cortex, which receives sensory information from the ears and is then processed into meaningful units like speech and words. This is how your favorite music is processed through the brain. The temporal lobe also plays a role in speaking and understanding languages, as well as learning and memory. Our sense of smell is also processed in the temporal lobe. Certain odors can trigger very strong associations and memories of situations and places from a long time ago, like the smell of freshly baked chocolate chip cookies that takes you back to Grandma's kitchen when you were younger. The parietal lobe is associated with processing sensory information like touch, pressure, and pain. This part of the brain tells us how to regulate and process the body's five senses. It's you dealing with and reacting to your environment. The occipital lobe helps us identify and make sense of the visual information coming from our eyes. This bit of the brain allows you to see the beauty of the world around you. The occipital lobe works similarly to a camera because they both capture images and process them. A shutter's camera speed allows the light to strike the digital sensor. The aperture works with a shutter to control the light exposed, which affects the depth of field focus. The field of focus differentiates shapes, colors, and objects of a picture. Similarly, visual information is first sent through the eye, then it is interpreted by the occipital lobe, which causes visual perception and color recognition. Now we'll move on to the second concept, which is the left versus right hemispheres. Generally, the left hemisphere of the brain focuses on intellect and logic. Think, math, and science. It is adept at tasks that are more analytical, logical, detail, and fact-oriented. The language centers of the brain are also in the left hemisphere. Generally, the right hemisphere of the brain involves intuition and creativity, think, art, and music. The right side of the brain allows us to be more creative and free-thinking. We're able to see the big picture and are likely to visualize more than think in words. The left and right hemispheres of the brain are connected by a great number of nerve fibers called the corpus callosum. In a healthy brain, the two sides communicate with one another. It is important to stress that there is no right or wrong way to think. Both sides have their advantages and simply represent two ways of thinking. The last concept we're going to cover is association areas, specifically Broca's area and Wernicke's area. Association areas are sections of the cerebral cortex that are responsible for thought, memory, and learning. They help people make sense of incoming sensory input. The two association areas mentioned in the book are Broca's area and Wernicke's area. Broca's area is found in the frontal lobe. This particular association area is involved in the production of coherent speech, speech processing, and understanding language. The major task of Broca's area is speaking the right words that make sense at that moment of time. An individual with damage to this area has something called Broca's aphasia, which is speech that requires effort and is slow and drawn out due to difficulty with the words they want to communicate. I'm going to show a video of a stroke survivor who has Broca's aphasia, and so you can notice his impairment in speech.
Can you tell us your name?
Mike Caputo.
And Mike, when was your stroke?
I was 7 years ago.
Okay.
And
what did you used to do?
Worked Autodesk, sales, and worldwide, and very good. Yeah.
Okay. And who are you looking at over there when you turn your head?
That's my wife.
Okay. And why is she helping you to talk?
She's a speech.
So you have trouble with your speech?
Yeah.
And what's that called?
Aphasia.
All right. And so why don't you work now?
I do.
Wernicke's area is found in the temporal lobe. This particular association area is involved in the reception of speech. This is where we formulate what we're going to say. A person with damage to Wernicke's area suffers with Wernicke's aphasia, which is a major impairment of language comprehension. They may hear the words being spoken to them, but they might not understand the words. Their speech patterns are fluent, but sentences are largely incoherent and poorly sequenced, which you'll notice in the following video of a stroke survivor with Wernicke's aphasia.
Hi, Byron. How are you?
I'm happy. Are you pretty? You look good.
What are you doing today?
We stayed with the water over here at the moment and talk with the people for them over there. They're diving for them at the moment. They'll save in the moment. He'll have water very soon for him. With luck for him.
So we're on a cruise and we're about to
We
get to
will
Juneau.
store it right here and they'll save their hands right there for them.
And what were we just doing with the iPad?
Right at the moment they don't show a darn thing.
With the iPad that we were doing. Like here?
I'd like my change for me and change hands for me. It would happen. I would talk with Donna sometimes. We're out with them. Other people are working with them. I'm very happy with them.
Good.
This girl was very good and happy. And I play golf and hit other trees. We play out with the hands. We save a lot of hands on hold for people.
Now, to sum up this video, we first covered the 4 lobes of the brain. The frontal lobe governs our judgment, decision-making, and personality. The temporal lobe is where our senses of hearing and smell are processed. It also plays a role in learning and memory. The parietal lobe is associated with regulating and processing sensory information. The occipital lobe sees visual information and processes it. The second concept we covered was the left versus the right hemisphere. The left hemisphere is more logical. Think of math and science, while the right hemisphere is more creative. Think of art and music. In a healthy brain, the two are connected by the corpus callosum to communicate with one another. The last concept we covered was the association areas of Broca's area and Wernicke's area. Broca's area allows a person to speak smoothly and fluently. Damage to this area is called Broca's aphasia, which is difficulty in the actual production of words. Wernicke's area is important for understanding the meaning of words. A person with Wernicke's aphasia can speak fluently, but their sentences are largely incoherent.